First of all, according to the massive, there were walls and walls of hieroglyphics carved in, giving the whole history of who they were and what they were doing and why they were there and where they came from. See, for the people say, well, what's the Egyptians doing at the bottom of the Grand Canyon with all this rapids? How'd they get there? Did they come by ship? Well, that didn't happen till Columbus, right? According to what was there on the wall, they came via a massive tunnel system. And this was the entrance going into the tunnels going down. It documented two things that correspond with the Hopi and Pueblo Indians. The Hopis talk about the ant people and the kivas that they have on their second and third mesa in Arizona. And they came out from these massive tunnel systems after the flood. They were put in there to basically the whole earth was covered with flood water. Okay? That's the Hopi tradition. But the Hopis also have the tradition of part of those underground subterranean chambers. There were big giants that they were never to work with. So there's that giant thread in the cave system. And according to the Hopis that I know, they still exist there. They're just set off. Steve Quill talks about the Kandahar giant that happened in Afghanistan, where the giant came and engaged and killed a couple of our special forces in Afghanistan. That's again shut down, and everything else is quiet about that. Because see, if it happens in Afghanistan and the tunnel system there, it validates what I'm talking about. Here, until the Rosetta Stone was found, they weren't able to interpret those hieroglyphics. But now that the Rosetta Stone, we know how to read the hieroglyphics. It's an amazing story, according to my source in Washington, D.C. The story is this is the descendants of the biblical Joseph of Egypt. Tells the whole story. Lays it out as to how many generations they actually had a civilization there and why they left. It's all their history is on the walls. And it's definitely history that's not in the history books, and they're not going to talk about it. First of all, it validates the Bible, and they're never going to do that. Okay? Then the next thing, it validates there's a whole antediluvian underground subterranean civilization involving giants. I'm not going to let that out either. Why? Because again, that goes back to Stephen Quill's Empire Under the Ice and the connection to Antarctica and the Anunnaki, the secret society. This is earth-shattering and life-changing when you see that this is much different than what you believe that the world is. So here's all these tunnels that connect to actually the entrance, according to the interpretation. There's under the Sphinx in Egypt is where the tunnel connects, and it goes out throughout much of the world. In fact, it's interconnected tunnels throughout the world. It's connected by ancient technology, fast-moving, they call them chariots, but they're carts that fast move, so they could travel fast. In fact, you can go again on the north rim of the Grand Canyon, the Kaibab Peninsula, the Kaibab Plateau. The giant ponderosa pines that are on, like around Jacobs Lake and that whole area of northern Arizona, there is ancient workings, vast irrigation networks of an ancient society that was very skilled in bringing water, and there was granaries and everything. There was massive grain production, and that's explained in the walls. They raised grain on that plateau and brought it back for the famine years, validating the biblical story once again. Common people, when they were mummified, they were put into wooden sarcophagi. They was carved with wood. Where are they going to get this wood in Egypt? There's no forest to cut. These sarcophagi were carved out of pine, and the pine is ponderosa pine from the north rim of the Grand Canyon. How did they get it? This explains it.